Well, this is a special occasion. In the Deep has not had a podcast since 2023, but that changes today. Jordan White, what on earth?
Hello, Nick.
And Chris Webber.
It's so good to see you.
Nick,
It is really wonderful.
It's been 561 days. Not that I'm counting.
Yeah, we continued to record the podcast. You just refuse to actually post it anywhere. I've been sitting on the corner. We're trying to get ad revenue in and stuff like that. So I've been standing on the corner of Humboldt and Locust in Milwaukee, just rattling off Squarespace ads, hoping that someone will come and pay us.
But acoustic podcast, yeah.
What am I? Okay, I'm just going to go. Bye.
No, we never stopped recording, folks. You can find In the Deep on Zune, Google Podcast title, or LimeWire torrents that are titled Linkin Park in the Deep, in the end, one word.
Yes, exactly. Shwebzy, it's so good to see you again. Before we actually kick this off, though, thanks, Nick, for having us on, obviously, for having the reunion episode. Fantastic to be here. Before we actually get going, I think we need to do one thing, though. So could our producer play a little something for us quick?
You know what my favorite part about In the Deep is that...
Again?
My favorite part about In the Deep is that we peaked seconds into our first episode with that intro, because I love our intro music.
It's very, very good. And the standard opening. What's good, y'all? Welcome to In the Deep, a deep league-focused fantasy baseball podcast, formerly part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. My name is Jordan White, the host. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Christopher Shwebzy Webber. Shwebzy, welcome to PitchCon.
Hi, friends. Welcome to PitchCon. As Nick said, we are the final push. I said we should push for $1 million on the donations. I was told that was too aggressive, but we have a plan. We might not reach $1 million, but we have a plan for this final push. You may notice that Jordan has in front of him a little cooking station. We have committed. We are committed for every. Did you say 30 or 40?
$30.
Every $30 donated in this hour, that we will consume one hot dog.
Yes, correct.
So for the price of one Yankee Stadium hot dog, we will consume a hot dog.
Exactly. Yeah. You have the opportunity to both help raise money for a very good cause and make me suffer personally. So this is your chance if you've ever wanted either of those things. Shwebzy, we've had different structures of the podcast as time has gone on, everything like that. Explain to the folks exactly what we chose to do for the reunion episode here.
All right. So we've had many different episode types over the run of In the Deep. And one of my favorites is the draft that we did every year with who was it? It was Chad Young, Pete Ball.
Yeah, the folks from Keeper Cut, and then on the wire.
On the wire as well, right? Adam Howe, Kevin Hastings. So what we've done is we've done our own little personal two-man draft. And we set ourselves some restrictions here to make it more interesting. So we had to talk about more types of players. You can see our draft board to the other side there. And the rules of this draft: only players post 300 are eligible. We draft 5 players each, snake draft.
Yes.
And there are 5 tiers: 300 to 350, 351 to 400, 401 to 450, etc. You can see them there on the screen.
Correct.
The catch is that, for example, let's say in round 1, I take an outfielder from 401 to 450. That means Jordan cannot take an outfielder in that range either. So he has to take an outfield from one of the other 4 ranges. So not only does that player get locked, but that entire range for that position gets locked for the player. So we had to be a little strategic with what our first picks were, what our early picks were. We had to kind of examine the whole pool post 300 to see where the strengths and weaknesses are for what we wanted to focus on, and make our picks based on that. And I do have to start off, before we actually get into the draft, by noting that about 20 minutes ago, before we started here, we did get a donation from Jim J saying, glad to see the return of the In the Deep podcast, which Technically didn't happen in the hour, but they mentioned us by name, so it counts. So we are at, since that donation, we are at 230, Jordan. So that is 7 dogs so far. Are you regretting setting the threshold?
Technically, not to be technical, that's 7.75 dogs. I've already started the first one. I'm almost done.
All right. You let me know if you need me to
it.
tap in. I'm ready to help here. You let me know when you want me to tap in.
Oh, I know you are.
Again,
I'm probably going to have to cook more, but.
So that we're at 7 dogs so far and counting. But with that, this is horrific, Jordan. I hate this for you.
Oh.
We are going to get into our first pick. My first pick. How did we decide who had the first pick?
Don't
talk with your mouth full.
It was like a shut up. It was a wheel. We spun a wheel.
Spun a wheel, right? And the wheel was like 50% my name, 50% Jordan's name, and then yeah, I won. So I had the first pick, and yeah, I will get us started here. So with my first pick, oh, let's see, can I control this presentation?
Bang, that's it.
Oh, there it is. I took Max Kepler, outfielder in the 451 to 500 range. So I went aggressive with outfielder here for the first pick because, as I said, we had to look at the whole draft pool in this post 300, and I noticed that there were just not a lot of outfielders that I liked, but all of the outfielders that I did like seemed to be in this 450 to 500 range. So I needed to jump on this. There were some other guys I like John Kenzie Noel, Big Christmas. Really excited about his power potential. But I wound up going with Max Kepler because I feel like there are some playing time, like not guarantees, but more likely playing time here. So I probably could have waited because there were 3 guys I liked, but I had to jump here. So I imposed these stupid rules, and yeah, so I had to abide by my own stupid rules. There's definitely, like, with outfield, there's some like Luke Raley types, some Ryan O'Hearn types who are very likely to play, but you'll get kind of like iffy production from that. Not iffy, but consistent, steady, not exciting production. So I went for the upside here. When I'm drafting late, I tend to be looking for guys who can really, really pop. So Max Kepler, he signed pretty early in the offseason in mid-December to a 1-year, $10 million deal. That is the kind of deal that means he is going to play, and he's going to play pretty often. One of the hardest things about selecting players this late in the draft is finding guys who are simply going to play regularly. And I think Kepler has, at the very, very least, the strong side platoon bats locked up in Philly with the potential for everyday plate appearances. Looking at his 2024 season, it would be easy to say that Max Kepler is over 30. He's declining. He's probably cooked. But Kepler's coming off an incredibly injury-riddled season. Last year, he had a knee injury, elbow injury, neck injury, knee injury again, and a hip injury that he was quoted as saying probably it was the cause of his knee injuries, trying to compensate for that hip injury he was dealing with. And that hip injury wound up ending his season. So he got a good number of plate appearances, but it was not a healthy year for him. So what we've got here is a player who absolutely crushed the ball in 2023. And then he suffered an injury-plagued season, and now he finds himself in a great lineup with a great ballpark. Citizens Bank Ballpark, where the Phillies play, has the second highest park factor for home runs for lefties. And that is what you're hoping for from Kepler. Dingers, and the counting stats that come with being a part of a really strong lineup. Kepler in general kind of has up and down seasons that seem to be dictated on whether or not he is pulling his fly balls that season. But in his most recent healthy season, that is what he did. I am not surprised at all that that string of injuries, killed his ability to kind of distribute the ball where he wants to and hit those pulled fly balls. But it's in his skill set. His most recent healthy season, he was fantastic, and I love his new situation. So I think he's got a much better shot at regular playing time than John Kenzie Noel, and that's why I went Kepler here.
Yeah, I think the park upgrade is really good for Kepler. I like this pick a lot. By the way, I'm 3.5 hot dogs in.
3.5? You ate 3.5 hot dogs while I was talking just there?
Yeah, I muted
That's
so you couldn't
incredible.
hear the mouth sounds, but I did eat 3.5 hot dogs.
I think the mouth sounds add to the whole thing.
Absolutely not. No one wants to hear that. Yeah, so that was Schwebzy's first pick. We did it snake, so that way I got 2 picks after his first pick. So we're going to kind of loop it around like that. Before I get to my pick, I actually think we have some breaking news.
With the second pick of the In the Deep podcast draft, Jordan White selects Pavin Smith, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Wait, what? What was that?
Oh, I just had Sperry whip up a little something really quick for me.
Oh, that was cool. I want
Yeah.
that.
I mean, we could probably figure something out for you. Real quick. Sperry, if you're listening, actually, can you actually get on something for Schwebzy? That'd be great. So yeah, my first pick was Pavin Smith. In an admittedly really limited sample size last year, Pavin Smith showed just incredible decision making at the plate. September and October were fantastic for him. He slashed 290, 384, 677 with a 183 WRC plus that month, 6 home runs. When you look under the hood at what he did last year, especially in that time frame, using like Kyle Bland's process plus, he excelled in literally every aspect of being a hitter. So contact, power, and decision making. So it's worth noting that when it comes to process plus, the reliability threshold for both contact and decision making, which he did reach at 400 pitches, is right around there. Power, because you need enough batted ball events to make it reliable, is around 900 pitches, which Pavin Smith did not see last year. So there's maybe a slight knock in terms of his upside as a hitter there. But I mean, he was fantastic. The one thing that I really want to touch on with Pavin Smith is that I feel like we do very commonly get burned a ton by guys who had like one good month at the end of the season. That's something that we love to do, is like sit there and hope and pray that they're going to be able to continue to do what they do. Is it smart to throw that much hope into a guy who had one good month? Maybe not. But at pick 455, which is where he was at when we were looking at ADP, and a strong side platoon bat, which I chose as a first baseman because he does have eligibility at first base in some leagues. I think that a guy who has that much pop in a small sample and has a penchant for making just good decisions at the plate is well worth the pick there. So I went with Pavin Smith.
Nice. So I didn't want to spoil your pick, but Pavin Smith was one of the other guys that I was looking at with my outfield pick in the first round. But one of our astute, one of our like I would call him a super fan of In the Deep, Yancey Eaton, pointed out to me that you cheated. Pavin Smith is not qualified in the outfield. That's
because Yancey only plays in NFBC leagues and he does not have eligibility there. But if you look at auto new leagues, he has first base and outfield eligibility. So
this pick has some fantasy provider qualifiers.
Yes, exactly.
A little cagey if you ask me. But
Sure.
So I like it. I do like Pavin Smith. His profile looks bananas from his short stint at the end of last year. He's one of those guys that you look in deep leagues, you just look at, he's on the waiver wire and you're always like, maybe. And you got to hope that you catch that hot streak. Just to update our dog situation. We've had another $100 donated by a couple different donations, including my wife, who
you didn't say it like Borat. It doesn't count.
My wife, who her comment here is 2 little pig emojis, which means nothing, I'm sure. And an anonymous decision, a Kyle Bland donation saying that you got that dog in you.
I do have many. I'm going to have many dogs in me by the end of this panel. I am already falling behind.
And one more donation saying, we gonna go viral with this one.
Oh, no. Okay. I know exactly who that is. Hi. Good one.
All right. And with that, that puts us at, I believe that is 3:30, and I believe that is 11 dogs.
That would be correct.
So you tell me, do you want me to tap in here?
I mean, you can.
So how many dogs are you at?
I've had 3.5 so far. Obviously, I can't eat them.
Okay.
I can't eat them while I'm talking. But while I start covering my next pick, you can eat some dogs here and help cover it. So, actually, Sperry, let's have you roll the next pick for us.
To start the second round, we stay with Jordan White, and his selection is Clay Holmes, starting pitcher, New York Mets.
Beautiful. So yeah, I went with Clay Holmes here. I don't know if the transition from reliever to starter just feels more common today or if it actually is, but Clay Holmes is the newest convert on the block after the success of fellow former New York relievers like Seth Lugo and Michael King. I know that it's probably not the case because obviously like new GM and David Stearns and everything like that, but it does feel a bit like the Mets are trying to redeem themselves after letting Lugo walk when he said he wanted to try out starting. And I'm sure Schwebzy has feelings about this too. Don't say anything. It's fine. Just keep eating. Now, the thing is, both Lugo and King have obviously seen a ton of success as starters. Lugo had Cy Young votes last year through 200 plus innings of like 3 RA ball. And then King threw 175-ish innings, had 200 strikeouts, a sub-3 ERA. Like they were fantastic last year. So they both are success stories in this regard. So there's recent precedent for this successful conversion, obviously, but both King and Lugo had something leading into their experiment that Holmes doesn't, which is a deep repertoire. As of now, King only has 3 pitches, a sinker, slider, and a sweeper. It also says that he has a 4-seam, which I wasn't totally sure about because it said that he only threw 2 of them over like 1,000 pitches last year. So I was like, it's probably just a classification error. Except I was kind of doing some digging on this, and it looks like he started throwing a 4-seamer again last year in the playoffs, as astutely pointed out by Mike Petriello over at Baseball Savant. Dug up some posts about that. Holmes did throw a 4-seamer fairly frequently in 2018 and 2019 with the Pirates before he went to the Yankees. So in terms of building a more deep repertoire, I wouldn't really gamble on him adding a different pitch than the 4-seamer. I think he'll probably start there. There's a chance maybe down the line he adds another pitch, but the fact that he was tinkering with throwing a 4-seamer at the end of last season and into the playoffs is pretty good. Even if he doesn't have 5 pitches going into this little experiment, I think that I'm in on him at the price. I think the stuff is there. The velo is going to drop. Like he usually sat around like 96-ish. He'll probably sit 93-ish, 94 maybe as a starter. And the innings will be limited, but at the price, I think I'm in on him.
All right. And I would like to point out we cleared 4 dogs in there.
Wait, what? How many are you? How big are your hot dogs?
They're little. They're cocktail wieners.
Oh my God.
Work smarter, not harder, Jordan.
Okay, I did this to myself. Okay.
So
I'm gonna go.
We've had another $25 donation. Sure, and I think that puts us $5 short of the threshold for a 12th dog. So you had 3, I had 4. That puts us at 7 so far. We owe another 4. We owe another 4 dogs right now.
7.5. I'll go. I'm muting.
All right. So I think we got our producer / understudy / director of media to whip something up for my next picks. Let's see it.
With their second pick in the Indie Deep podcast draft, Team Schwebzy selects Calvin Fauché, reliever, Miami Marlins.
All right, I guess I don't get highlights. But yeah, I guess we got to throw it. He had to throw it together quickly. I get it. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad about it. Calvin Fauché. The rationale behind this pick is easy. If you need a closer post 300, you generally need to pick a reliever from one of 2 categories: either good relievers who don't have an immediate shot at the closer role, or decent relievers on really bad teams that might just be the best of a bad bunch. And Calvin Fauché is a member of the Miami Marlins. I think you can guess which of the two categories he falls under. Jordan and I agreed that Ryan Presley did not count for this exercise because even if his ADP, oh my God, these hot dogs are already making me regret things. Even if his ADP qualified him, he's going to be a top 300 pick before things are all said and done. And that would kind of betray the spirit of the exercise. And these draft rules are binding, and the penalty of breaking them is death. The nice thing about having taken Fauché is that I love when I do this. When I decide to talk about somebody, start looking into them, and then find out that they're actually like pretty interesting. Fauché's kind of weird. I started off looking at his sinker because it's a bad pitch according to a lot of metrics. But then I'm looking at the stuff, and the stuff looks fantastic. So it grades poorly by a lot of metrics because he just never throws it in the zone, like ever. He throws it, he exclusively uses his sinker like a four-seamer. It has movement on it that not like a normal sinker. And I even think that the handful of four-seamers that he threw are just misclassified sinkers. So he throws his sinker exclusively up, and he basically he exclusively misses up with it. He throws it out of the zone very, very frequently. It has an absolutely abysmal called strike rate, but also has a really good swinging strike rate. So when he is getting swings on it, it's an effective pitch. So even though he never throws it in the zone and doesn't really get chases, like it still manages to be an above average or an average CSW pitch. But his real primary pitch here is the cutter, and the cutter is his strike getter, and it's pretty good at the job. It's a gyro cutter, lots of downwards break, lots of ground balls, and it grades out really well in PLV because this pitch he can locate. The curveball does its job well enough. Not great. It gets a bunch of called strikes while not being much of a whiff pitch, which I guess a curveball can work either way. I think ideally it would do both. I assume batters are looking to lay off of his high sinkers, and the sinker tunnels with the curveball. That's my guess here. The repertoire is kind of weird, but it really seemed to work for Fauché in his first season of any real volume. He's 29, and last year was his first season of more than 26 innings pitched in the majors. And the weirdness that in his repertoire kind of extends to his season stats, because like you can look at his 345 BABIP and say he got unlucky, but then, oh, look, he gave up literally 0 home runs, 0. And that's probably not happening again. So he got lucky there. So was he lucky or unlucky? Yes. At the end of the day, he's an interesting, pretty decent reliever on a Miami Marlins team that does not have many decent relievers. His strongest competition for the role, the closer role, is probably between Andrew Nardi and Anthony Bender. And Nardi is a lefty and therefore less of a human being in the eyes of managers when choosing their closer. And Anthony Bender, who is probably actually the strongest competitor here. Bender put up like a 4+ ERA last year, but his indicators show that he is better than that. So I think I like Fauché a lot. Closer is rough this year. I think even more so than in recent seasons. But Jordan and I were going through it the other day, and there's so many situations that are fluid, in flux, closer situations, just completely unclear. So I wanted to jump at the opportunity to lock down someone I view as a somewhat likely closer here.
I dig it. Yeah, the repertoire is interesting. It's just a really good, like you said, like getting that sinker in the zone more frequently is going to help him loads. So what about another pick here? Maybe Sperry has something a little bit more interesting.
Hang on. We have to be clear. How many hot dogs did you get down?
I finished the one that I had started. I've got a total of 6 for myself.
Total of 6. All right, so that's 10 total. We had a $60 donation plus another anonymous donation that I'm not sure the amount of. We will. So, oh no.
Yance Eaton jump scare. Hi, Yance.
Hi, friend.
I don't think he's actually here.
Well, you know what? He's here in spirit, and for that, I love him. So, let's say we got what were we at? We were at $10 short of 12 hot dogs, and we got another 60. We'll say we're at 15 hot dogs.
15 hot dogs, so 6. And then how many did you finish?
4.
4. Okay, we're kind of keeping
Five to
pace.
go. 5 to go.
Oh my god.
Okay, so moving on to my next pick. Let's see what you got, Commissioner.
With the first pick of the third round, Team Schwebzy selects Danny Jansen, catcher, Tampa Bay Rays.
Okay, why was he striking out in that highlight?
The editing is so good. Sperry, you're a genius.
They call that malicious compliance. Thanks, Sperry. Really cool. Love that for me. All right, Danny Jansen. This pick is similar to Fauché. This is more about the position. The avatar of Yancey is also eating a hot dog, and I appreciate him helping us hit our current number of 15 dogs. So Danny Jansen. This pick, it's more about the lack of quality catchers. I felt like I needed to jump on this before Jordan took one because outside of the 300 to 350 range, it gets very grim very quickly. So I felt so strongly about this that it actually kind of blocked me from taking a lot of other players I was interested in that are in that 300 to 350 range. I just felt like I really needed to get a catcher here. So I do think that Danny Jansen has some interesting things about him. Which is if there was just no one interesting, I would have punted the position. But I do like Danny Jansen. There's more red flags than green in his profile. Like Jansen had a really power happy 2023, and while he did barrel a decent number of balls in 2023, his power is like it's more of a function of his approach than actual raw power. Jansen, believe it or not, is straight up one of the best players in the league when it comes to pulling his fly balls. And I don't that is definitely not an impression that I had of him prior to digging in for this. In 2023, he was literally 99th percentile. Getting that number courtesy of Robert Orr's completely invaluable Seager leaderboard. 2024 was a little bit more alarming. He continued to pull the ball in the air. He was still very good at that, but he just wasn't hitting the ball with any sort of authority. Basically, every contact quality metric dropped from the previous year. And I guess I would consider it a positive that in spite of a pretty nightmarish season, he didn't abandon his approach. Like he still had a 12% walk rate. He still pulled fly balls at close to a league best rate. But I kind of want to just throw away his 2024, and I will tell you why. Something that occurred in 24 that can be used to just explain away his awful year is two things really: a wrist injury that happened in the middle of the year, and also he had a kid, and right around that same time as he became a father, he also got traded from Toronto to Boston. Not close to each other. So I feel like sometimes we forget that like baseball players are people, and off-field events can impact your on-the-field production. I don't love playing this card because it's like almost too convenient to just explain away what was an absolutely atrocious few months for him. But before the paternity leave, Jansen was an above average hitter, and after the trade, he was like levels of bad heretofore unseen. He had a 31% zone contact rate after joining Boston. 31% is so abysmally low that when I see that number, I'm like, something's wrong. That is just not a number that a major league player would put up. Any major league player. On top of what might be a new fresh start for Jansen mentally, I mentioned his pulled fly ball approach, and if you don't remember what team he signed with, he signed for the Tampa Bay Rays, the team that turned Isaac Paredes into a pulled fly ball god. The Rays actually spent money to acquire Danny Jansen, which is spending money is not a thing that, the Tampa Bay Rays really do. And Jansen is now their fourth highest player. He was third for a little bit there, and then they signed Ha-Seong Kim to even more. But clearly they believe in Jansen. And I'd expect him to play frequently for a team that is a fan of that pulled fly ball approach. And Jansen is also an incredible defender behind the plate. His framing numbers aren't great, but he is really good at blocking pitches. And the Rays historically have leaned heavily on strong defensive catchers. So what we're hoping for here is a renewed focus so he can continue using his great approach to draw walks and hit some dingers, strong defense to keep him in the lineup. And we might see like a tail end of the top 12 overall season from him for catchers. But I do think that Jansen will be at least must own in 2 catcher leagues and is likely going to be rostered in 1 catcher leagues during his hot streaks. And I'm noticing that my trend so far is choosing high upside bounce back picks. So I guess I'm probably gonna have to change that up with my next pick.
So I'm just gonna be upfront with everyone. My tummy feels crazy right now.
How you doing, buddy?
It's insane.
What are you up to?
What am I up to? I've finished 8.
8? All right, so that's 12. So we're 3 behind pace right now. Cheers.
Was that your second pick or your first?
That was my third
What's going
pick.
on? Oh, I can't think. Is it my turn?
With the second pick of the third round, Jordan White selects Heston Kjerstad, Baltimore Orioles.
So I chose Heston Kjerstad for my third pick. Like looking at most of his underlying data from last year, it leaves a lot to be desired. And while I do think I owe people here a lot more than just like basic level analysis, there's really only one thing that I have to say about Kjerstad, and that's basically just trust more of the player that he was in the minor leagues. He won in the IL twice last year with a concussion. As someone who has experienced multiple concussions of their own, which is probably why I have harebrained ideas like eating 1 billion hot dogs on a charity stream, it's incredibly debilitating and difficult to do many things after suffering a concussion, much less track and hit major league quality pitching. In the strikeout rate's going to be scary. It always has been. Is the playing time going to be there? Maybe not. Probably not right away. But the only thing that can really help a person recover from the trauma of a concussion is time. So my hope is that the further we get from that injury, the more we get to see the Kjerstad that we've come to know during his time as a prospect. Like he still slashed last year, 300, 397, 601 at Norfolk AAA. I would say if you're trying to shy away from him because you didn't like what you saw in the majors last year, don't just judge him off that incredibly tiny sample. Early in the season, he looked great. Beyond that, I would say a lot of it is mostly due to the injury and recovering from that. So that's kind of why I'm in on Heston Kjerstad. Otherwise known as Keston here as Wario.
You know, that I hadn't actually seen much of Heston Kjerstad's like face and general like look and vibe. I did not realize that he was another one of the cast of Lords of Dogtown that make up the Baltimore Orioles prospect list.
He absolutely fits the mold, looks wise for sure.
I'm at 9, by the way.
9 mini dogs to my 8 full-size hot dogs.
Yeah, that means I'm winning.
I hate you so much. Commissioner, roll the next pick.
With the first pick of the 4th round, Jordan White selects Tyler Holton, pitcher for the Tigers. He might start.
Wait, was that Danny Jansen striking out there at the end?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I feel like there's a bias here in the editing.
I may have paid Sperry. It's fine. So this is my favorite pick of the draft, and I'm really happy that I was able to wait this long on Holden. Also, I know that Sperry said that he might start. He's probably not going to start. That's not what he's going to do. What he is going to do is probably pitch in every single inning of a game this season at some point, which is what AJ Hinch said. So for the uninitiated, Holton is a lefty swingman for the Tigers. He dominated last year to the tune of a 2.19 ERA and 0.78 WHIP, like exceptional ratios over 94 innings pitched. So he played a key role with the Tigers and their successful run into the postseason. I'm going to do my best to keep it as brief as I can with him, but there's so much to like about him and how he grew into the pitcher that he is since he came to the Tigers in 2023 after they snagged him off waivers from the D-backs. So Holton effectively has a 5-pitch mix, cutter, sinker, changeup, sweeper, and a 4-seam. And his command of all of his offerings is genuinely just fantastic. Like he locates everything so well. His strikeout numbers, admittedly, leave a bit to be desired. I think he had something like 74 in his 90-something innings pitch. He consistently plays around the edges of the zone and gets a ton of chase despite not getting a ton of strikeouts, which means that he induces a ton of less than ideal contact in most of his offerings. Since coming to the Tigers, mechanically, they have, I'm assuming, worked with him. I don't know if it was something that he did himself in the offseason or if it was the team working with him. He's adjusted his arm slot significantly. So he used to throw from a much more over the top slot from like a 55 degree. Now he's dropped it all the way down to 43, as well as cutting his curveball that he used to throw and adding the sweeper into his arsenal. So I was really curious about Holton. So I actually exchanged a few messages with Steven Sutton Brown over at Baseball Prospectus to see if their new Arsenal metrics, which is, again, pitch type probability, surprise factor, movement spread, and velocity spread, could help tell a little bit of a story about Holton. And it's really a tale of two pitchers, depending on if he's facing a lefty or a righty. So versus lefties, he primarily throws the sinker and sweeper. And though the pitch type probability and surprise factor don't grade out super well, just because there's not a lot of deception there, the movement spread between the two pitches and velocity spread are strong enough to give hitters fits if he hits his spots. And honestly, he almost always hits his spots. He makes very few mistakes. And then versus righties, his 4-seam, cutter, and changeup all have good, not great. It's not like amazing, but it's really good pitch type probability and surprise factor grades, which makes them really difficult to distinguish and differentiate between. But the movement and velocity spread grades between the three pitches leave a bit to be desired. So between the stellar command, the elite contact suppression skills that he has, but really, like, despite not having a ton of strikeouts, he walked less than 5% of hitters he faced last year. So limiting free passes is obviously awesome. And then obviously the added bonus of him having higher volume than a typical reliever, Holton, I think, can be a very sneakily valuable pitcher for you in your deep leagues this year. So, and my little fun fact that I've saved up until this point that I don't know if Schwebzy knows or not. Tyler Holton is the only person in our draft that got an MVP vote last year.
Well deserved too.
Shout out to Mike Wilner of the Toronto Star for
Toronto.
Yes, it wasn't even a hometown writer. So yeah, shout out to Mike Wilner of the Toronto Star for giving him that 10th place vote specifically so I could dunk on Schwebzy. It's greatly appreciated.
I just said that Toronto is close to Detroit, like all of Canada is close to Detroit, even though Toronto is not close.
We'll let it pass.
All right. So I do like it. So when you first said it, I rolled my eyes a little bit because I'm naturally contentious. But the more you talked about Holton to me, and the more we talked about him, I'm into it. I like this pick a lot. I like contact suppressors. It's just like the first time I see a pitcher and I see they don't strike people out, I'm like, no, I'm out. But then, like, he's clearly got skills and he's a very good pitcher. He was very good last year. And his manager said something along the lines of he's going to pitch in every inning next year, meaning 1 through 9. So, yes. Opener, middle reliever, long reliever, closer. That is the potential. Someone in chat mentioned that Holton is the only pitcher that will go 10 wins, 10 saves next year. And that's on the table.
if you get that, and he's post 500, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
He is post 500. He was at the time of when I looked, it was in
post 500. That's insane value, especially the fact that he's going to give you almost 100 innings pitched and the ratios that he provides.
Yes. So I need to give a little update here. So
Sure.
the donations have slowed, but I do need to mention that the one of the donations that came in a little while ago that we have already covered hot dogs for was from Pete Cromulent Alonso.
Wow.
Which I love. That's a listener, and I love that. And the comment there was, cheers to two folks who embody the philosophy, big boy, hit ball hard.
Yes. There's nothing we love more.
Thank you for listening. I mean, so like I said, we have slowed a little bit. Jordan, is there anything we can do to kind of kickstart things again? Is there anything we can offer to cause these donations to start rolling in again?
Do I need to get the blender out?
I mean, yeah, like get a bunch of hot dogs in one shot. That would be that. But you know, there needs to be donations before.
All right, big donation equals hot dog smoothie. How does that sound?
I was thinking, like,
I don't think anyone actually wants to see that.
One of my thoughts was like, if we hit a certain number, then I could like DM a player for you to yell at them if they make you miss your parlay. I would do that for you if we hit a certain number.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Can't be that guy. After Mike's presentation, you're going to do that? Come on now.
We could set up a studio in the donator's house and record a podcast there for them, just for them personally.
Personal podcast. Yeah, we can do that. I'd be
that's
down
like
for that.
that's like a variation on the acoustic podcast.
Yes, I'm down for that.
JR Keynes says a big donation for you to not eat a hot dog smoothie, which I can understand that.
See, these are the mind games I love to play because I want to get that big donation so I don't have to do it.
And something that I have to put out in the world, I need the world to know about Jordan's dedication. The first idea that he came to me with before the hot dog thing, and I had to shoot down.
I forgot what this was already, so please enlighten me.
Jordan mentioned that he has a tattoo artist friend.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And if we hit our goal, our undetermined goal, that he would get a tramp stamp live while recording.
That is true.
And
I did say I was going to do that. I know that Nick would be so uncomfortable having to see that.
Obviously, we cannot do that, and did not do that.
Next year, maybe. We'll see.
Next year. But
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
What I mean, oh well.
Nicholas Peter Pollock weighs in.
I knew he was going to come back for that one. That's what we like to call in the business bait.
All right, so I think we can move on to the next pick, Commissioner.
Yes.
With the final pick of the fourth round, Team Schwebzy selects Jonathan Aranda, infielder, Tampa Bay Rays.
Oh, okay. Sperry.
I wasn't paying attention. What happened?
Don't worry about it.
With the final pick of the fourth round, Team Schwebzy selects Jonathan Aranda, infielder, Tampa Bay Rays.
I'm sick of this.
It's so good. All right, I'm going to keep eating hot dogs to try to get ahead.
I'm ahead of things now. Like I've got like a 5 hot dog buffer before the next one comes through. But all right, so Jonathan Aranda. A major reason that I picked Aranda here is because there's not a lot to like about infielder post 300. Like there's a lot of like, you know, if this breaks right, which you can say that about a lot of post 300 picks, but infield feels especially sparse to me. And I said the same thing about outfield. So I'm wondering if things are just shallower than they have been. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not as on top of things as I used to be. Maybe I've gotten rusty now that I'm retired from the game. But I am a big fan of guys like Spencer Horwitz and Christian Campbell in the 300 to 350 range. But I had to get a catcher in that range, like I said before, with Danny Jansen. So those guys were off the table. So in the ADP range that I was selecting from, Jonathan Aranda is the one guy that really, really stood out for me. But one of the lessons learned from this is that I really like if I need like a corner infielder in a deep league, I need to lock that down before pick like 400. Otherwise, there's just not a lot. So and full disclosure here, I am less excited about this pick than I would have been a couple of weeks ago. I'm a little concerned about the long-term viability of Aranda on your team because of the Ha-Seong Kim signing. Because Ha-Seong Kim's existence on the Rays roster, it means there's more scenarios where Aranda loses playing time, a couple months into the season, or even sent back to the minors. The news actually just came out today that he has a fourth option year now, so he can be sent back to the minors now at no penalty to the Rays. Normally there's only like 3 years of that. I still like Aranda as a deep selection in a vacuum, especially as a player with a real shot of getting second base eligibility at some point, which would get him that really dope corner infield, middle infield designation. And it would make him eligible at probably the weakest position in fantasy. The good news for Aranda here is that Ha-Seong Kim isn't going to make his season debut until May at the absolute earliest. So Aranda has a good amount of time to prove he belongs in the lineup most days. I don't know about you all, but personally, I am emerging from 3 years in deep leagues of like gazing wistfully at Aranda on my waiver wire and going like, man, he sure crushes in the minors. I sure wish they would let him play. But I think we're finally at that point where he's going to get a little bit of leash to try to run away with a role here. The stupid, sexy Rays with way too many good players for their not enough roster spots. I'm psyched about Aranda for a few reasons here. I think he hits all of the 3 P's that we used to swear by here on In the Deep: playing time, potential, production. He ended the year on a really strong note with a 139 WRC plus in September. He's historically crushed the ball in the minors before last year's up and down AAA campaign. He's usually like 140, 160 WRC plus in AAA. And he seems locked into the strong side platoon DH role right now. So far in his career, this is a big downside here. He has a 42 WRC plus against lefties. So we can probably expect a lot of late game substitutions for him and very few starts against lefties. But he has the chance to really excel in this particular role while filling in at first base or second base when Yandy Diaz or Brandon Lau need a day off. One of the things I'm trying to pay attention to this draft season is the 2 new home ballparks that a couple of teams are going to be residing in and how that affects the values of players on the A's and the Rays. As a lefty on the Rays, Aranda will get to aim at the new short porch because his new home ballpark was modeled, fun fact, after the only Little League stadium that gets played in Major League Baseball. So Aranda is 79th percentile in pulled fly balls, again, using Robert Orr's invaluable resource. So he should be able to use that short porch to his advantage. Lots of barrels with middling top end exit velos. That might be the exact sort of profile that really gets boosted by a home ballpark like this. And you can kind of see that because he had 9 expected home runs if he played his games in Yankee Stadium last year, which is 50% higher than his season total of 6. Now, between the scarcity of infielders I trust in this range and a potential to gain second base eligibility and a very enticing batted ball profile, plus the ballpark, I am very in on Aranda this year, and I kind of expect to have him in a lot of leagues.
Just keep going. I'm going dog mode right now.
Hey, Jordan. We just had a $500 donation come through, buddy. Cheers.
Is that to drink a hot dog smoothie or not drink a hot dog smoothie? Can we get specification? I'm scared.
The donation itself and the comment was not specific about what they wanted you to do. I think this was just a generous donor, not someone who wanted to see harm befall you.
Okay. I'm just
Jordan,
slowly accepting my fate.
You decide how you want to play this while the commissioner rolls my next pick.
To begin the fifth and final round, Team Schwebzy selects Dustin May, pitcher, Los Angeles Dodgers.
It's old-timey footage because he hasn't pitched in forever. Okay.
I thought that was very good and creative personally, but
I sick of this.
it was a Met hitting the home run. Why aren't you happy?
It was a Met. Actually, fun fact: my wife's favorite player, Daniel Vogelbach, who she calls Danny the Fridge. She's right here. She says hi. Okay. Dustin May. This is both like the easiest and hardest pick to defend for me because I am, by the way, another $50 donation. Jordan, eat those dogs. I am not sure you can find a more talented starting pitcher into like this, like past pick 500, basically ever, unless you're doing an absolute prospect dart throw. Dustin May hasn't pitched since 2023. And he has literally never thrown more than 56 innings in a major league season, even though he debuted way back in 2019, which doesn't feel real. I can't believe he's already been around that long. He debuted at age 21, and over the parts of 5 seasons has shown flashes of strikeout potential, low walk potential, home run suppression, all the while appearing to be an elite contact suppressor. I think that last bit, speaking of contact suppressing with Tyler Holton, I think that bit is probably what I'm hoping for from him long term, besides health. But Dustin May and long term health haven't exactly gone hand in hand historically. But I think Dustin May has the exact sort of repertoire you want to limit damage because he's got a 4-seamer, sinker, cutter, all solid pitches, solid to good, and all of them are thrown really hard, and that just doesn't ever let the batter know which direction the hard stuff is going to move. And alongside that hard stuff, May throws a really hard curveball. And you're sensing a trend here. I've said the word hard like half a dozen times. Back in 2023, among starting pitchers, his sinker was 97th percentile in velocity. His 4-seamer was 96th percentile, cutter 97th, and his curveball was 99th percentile. Basically, he's just coming in hot, throwing all of his fastballs in the zone often and daring batters to square them up, and they aren't. The curveball probably winds up being the difference for him, whether he's just a contact suppression king or a potential frontline starter. In 21 and 22, that curveball was getting like a 45% and higher whiff rate, which is really good, and that's why his strikeouts were higher in those seasons. In general, a third of his career strikeouts have come on that curveball. In 2023, the whiffs on the curveball were way down to 22%, half of where they were before. And that's a really good starting point to kind of explain how he only struck out 18% of the batters he saw in 2023. His team situation has its pros and cons as well. He's a Dodger, so, cue the booze. But so he's got some of the best run support in baseball, but he's also part of a 6-man rotation, and meaning he'll start fewer games than a traditional starter. But you can kind of make the assumption that in a 6-man rotation, that might keep his arm healthier. He also might just be the odd man out no matter what he does because Shohei Ohtani's going to be back and he might be the 6th man in that 6-man rotation. at the end of the day, the talent is not in doubt and never really has been. This comes down to health, both for him and his Dodgers starting pitching colleagues. I'm absolutely willing to draft this lotto ticket at pick 517. Honestly, I would start looking at Dustin May like way earlier. Like guys who are being drafted around 400 are names like Chris Bassett, Brady Singer, Justin Verlander. Like give me Dustin May over any of those guys, and they're being taken 100 spots earlier. I will take the high upside lotto pick here. At if and you know if the Dodgers are going to Dodger and May winds up only throwing like 18 starts, then they're probably going to be 18 good starts.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I genuinely think that what we learned most from this draft so far, and what we'll know at the end, is that there's so much volatility with bats late, and you really need to get your offense set early. Like you can take so many dart throws, and a good number of them are going to be at least passable or hit with pitching. With hitters, it dries up so quick.
I think a lot of the takeaways of the things that I've read and watched, and looking at the draft pool myself this year, a lot of it seems to be get your bats early. Pitching can wait.
Yep, love it. All right, I think we're gonna round it out now with the final pick of the draft.
We have
with the final pick of the In the Deep podcast PitchCon draft, Jordan White selects Freddie Fermin, Kansas City Royals. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Drive safe.
It's really cool for the highlight to actually show a positive moment. That's nice. That's cool.
That's what happens when you actually pay the person helping us produce this whole thing.
I started to say we had another $75 of donations come in.
Oh my God. Am I going to actually shuffle off this mortal coil from eating too many hot dogs? Please help me catch up. That wasn't a pun. So Freddie Fermin, this is not a flashy pick by any means, obviously. This for me is oh God, I forgot to take a second catcher in my NFBC league sort of thing, or like any of my 2-catcher leagues where I'm going super deep with picks. Fermin is a really safe option among all of these third, fourth tier catchers, mostly because one, his defense is really, really, really good. He rates out very well by most defensive metrics, which I think is going to keep him on the field more than we initially think this year. I think he's going to get a ton of it at bats, probably 300, 350-ish. Which is fine for a second catcher. Also, with so many of these second catchers, they're usually harming you in one way or another, typically with ratio stats or rate stats like batting average. Not really the case with Fermin. He's had a pretty solid batting average the past 2 years. His contact rates have been pretty solid over that time as well. So he's not going to hurt your batting average, which honestly for me, for my second catcher, is all I'm really looking for. So that's kind of why I went on him for my catcher at this point. Obviously, the pickings are very slim. I was down to my last bracket and my last position that I needed to fill. So it was between basically Freddie Fermin and Miguel Amaya, and I went with Fermin here.
I am sure that I have rostered Fermin so many times in leagues over the past couple of years because he just always he's probably the best backup catcher around. Is he even still technically the backup catcher? Is he playing over Salvi starting?
At least according to roster resource right now, Salvi's going to catch, and then they have Jonathan India penciled in as the DH.
Yeah, I mean Salvi catches, DHs, plays first base. Fermin's going to find his at bats.
Yeah, they'll shuffle him around. He's going to get his at bats again. I think he's probably going to get 300, 350 plate appearances throughout the season, something like that. So I think that's enough value from a second catcher in a super, super deep league.
All right, so we've got a minute or two here before Nick interrupts us and stops our fun. I know it's fun for us. I hope it was fun for you guys. Can I get some opinions in the chat? Who had the better draft here? Can I get a little informal poll? Because I'm very curious here.
It was me.
I mean, I know it was me. I just want someone else to tell me that too.
You're absolutely wrong.
Chat says Edgar Caro all day. That is a fun thing about the White Sox. One of the few fun things about the White Sox is that they have a lot of catching talent in the pipeline. Sperry says Jordan, he doesn't count. You paid him off. Uncle Ted says Jordan, and he doesn't count because I don't like his answer.
That's fair.
One of you has a starter whose arm works. I assume that means me. Kierstad swings it for me to Jordan. Okay. I mean, that one doesn't count either because I can't tell Kierstad apart from the Holidays and Gunnar Hendersons of the world. Yancey had the best draft. Fair. Yancey had the best draft.
Honestly, you both have a poor excuse for a drafted team as well as a poor excuse for a plate of hot dogs in front of you, which I think makes me the winner.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the vote stands like 5 votes for Jordan, 2 votes for Yancey, 0 votes for me. Yeah, but like, it's not about the votes, you know?
It's about the friends we made along the way.
Right, yeah. Like, the only one who had an MVP candidate, Jordan. True.
I feel so vindicated right now and so smart.
Oh, I just did something.
Great.
I've been trying to avoid picking hot dog out of my teeth for the last hour. I finally did it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, chat.
Terrible. I mean, I've been shoving my face this entire time. You think they really care about that? Fine. Nicholas, Peter Pollock, please come back in.
Bye, friends.
Join us. Oh, yeah. Thanks for joining us for this episode of In the Deep. We appreciate it. Maybe we'll be back next year. Maybe not. I don't know if Nick's going to ask us back after this, but
my middle name is not Peter. Just so everyone knows.
So you say.
It is not Peter.
Yeah. Do you want us to say your government name on stream?
You don't actually know what my real middle name is.
Nicholas Percival.
You've actually told me before, and I'm not going to share it on stream.
Nicholas Phoenix Pollock.
Anyway, guys, that was amazing. It's great to have you back, both of you.
I hope you liked it.
I love the setup you have here, Jordan. This isn't what you used to have.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. I moved for like the 7th time since you met me. So,
well, I didn't know you had a live going on.
I thought I didn't throw any BAMs in there, but yeah, I have a nice little setup here, a nice little induction cooktop, and all of my stuff.
I feel like this doesn't do it justice. I got to move to the
full screen.
Hold on a second, guys. I got to move us to just a 3 for. Remove this. We'll go like this, and you know what? Even I'm just gonna do this because.
Oh. Yeah, so this is the setup. You can't really see it. Oh, yeah, there you go. There's everything. So you've got this giant plate of dogs, which I did not finish. Some unfinished dogs here, and then some buns as well. All the condiments. I bought ketchup mostly just to trigger people who don't think that ketchup should go on hot dogs. I did not use it. Also, we grayed out all the labels because there's no free advertising on the In the Deep podcast. But yeah. Thanks for my little guitar solo there, Nick.
It was beautiful. You know, and I kind of honestly just want to keep you going.
Finish the dogs, you coward.
But
do you want me to keep eating hot dogs? I think if you just want to keep me on a side screen, I'll just sit on the side.
Yeah, I mean, we're at $13,000 raised.
And thank you so much to everybody. We got more than I expected for our.
Should I do 2 at once?
Yes.
Too much.
Yes.
Wait.
Oh my gosh! All right. Okay. Okay. We got okay. All right. In the Deep podcast, everyone. We've all missed it so much. Jordan and Chris. It's actually kind of funny. I think Chris mentioned it as a joke, and then, or I said it, and he was like, "Oh, ha ha ha!" And then, like a week later, I was like, "Cool. So you guys are gonna do that, right?" He goes, "What? We are? I thought that was not serious." That was best. That was such a great way to
hang on, Sperry.
This weekend.
Sperry, are you still there? Can we get still there? Can we get the outro?
Oh yes, there's an outro. Please take it away. That has been the In the Deep podcast. I am not your host, Nick Pollock.
Hi, friends.
And with these two wonderful, wonderful humans. Seriously, guys, Chris and Jordan, we all missed you inside the fantasy baseball industry doing this podcast. And of course, this means you guys are going to be back regularly, right, Jordan?
Put me on the spot. Put me on the spot here, Nick.
like a waiter coming up to your table and asking you questions while you have your mouth full.
You
It's
know,
what the people want.
I don't agree to come on and do analysis every week. I will come on and jam like 12 hot dogs into my face every week if you want that.
I think the people will let you know.
All right.
Big
Sounds
chat.
good.
Well, anyway, Jordan and Chris, thank you guys so much for being part of PitchCon.
Thanks
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for letting us close it out.
Of course. Now get out of here. Stop eating food.